those are our disclosures. I'm a physiotherapist, as you can see, but I'm curious too, so I studied anthropology. In anthropology, we are used to study the cultures, but we are not the judge for these cultures. So I only will show you some studies that other anthropologists, nor myself, did about this FGM. The female genital mutilation is also known as female circumcision, excision, or genital cutting. This procedure has no health benefits for girls and women, usually performed without permission and often against their will. It violates girls' right to make important decisions about their sexual health. Why I began my presentation with this is because this is really a judge about this intervention. Okay, this is not written by an anthropologist. This is written in the literature that you can find in Dr. Google. At least, these are the numbers, 200 million girls and women alive today have undergone a form of female genital mutilation. If current trends continue, 50 million additional girls between age 15 and 19 will be subjected to FGM by 2030. Why does female genital mutilation happen? Okay, cultural beliefs are a strong factor in why this harmful practice takes place. It is claimed to preserve charity, cleanliness, family honor, and preserves a girl from marriage. It requires sensitive handling if we are to persuade communities that it is not a necessary part of a girl's education and coming-of-age ritual. Where does it happen? Although primarily concentrated in 30 countries in Africa and the Middle East, what are the consequences? Procedures can be severe bleeding and problem urinating immediately afterward. Later, there can be cyst formation, infections, infertility, and all what you know. Deaths from excision do happen as a result of hemorrhagic urine or immediately after the procedure or infections in the following weeks. The lasting psychological effects on victims can be traumatic, often leading to long-term mental health issues and sexual dysfunction. Now, what we can see is that the prevalence is declining. From 1985 to today, the percentage goes to 51% to 37%. What is the relationship between anthropology and the FGM? It will be with the cultural relativism. One of the core tenets of anthropology is the idea of the cultural relativism. It is argued that all cultures should be considered equal and that no one culture is superior to any other. For anthropologists, the study of other cultures should be free of bias and judgment in order to allow objective observation and recording. Anthropological and ethnographic inquiries of FGM have not the same societal pressure. Okay, now I will show you some studies from anthropologists, and in all of them you will see one thing. In these cultures, the women doesn't know nothing about other culture than their culture. They have the FGM done when they are childs, and you will see at the end that all the studies said that these women say that they are happy with the ablation and they are sure to do it to their daughters. Why? We don't know, because this is not our culture. Okay? I'm not saying, in any case, I'm in favor or I'm contrary to this, because this is not my job today. Today is only show to you what is the culture about the FGM. Licton Klein in 1989 about FGM say one could not go against custom. He said, custom was too strong in the people. No one could defy custom. Ellen Brownbaum has conducted research in Sudan and Sierra Leone on the practice of female genital cutting and the social movements against such harmful traditional practices. She wrote the book The Female Circumcision Controversy, an Anthropological Perspective. In her book, She points out that Western outrage and Western efforts to stop genital mutilation often provoke a strong backlash from people in the countries where the practice is common. The criticisms of outsiders are frequently simplistic and fail to appreciate the diversity of cultural contexts, the complex meanings, and the conflicting responses to change. The concept of choice in this kind of community that has long traditions about the subject of that choice, particularly ones connected with religion, is problematic. How do we know that without religious and social pressure, female genital mutilation or cutting is a choice in the sense of something that would be elected without that pressure? We don't have this answer. Sel Duncan have another considerations, and she said that also challenge some common misconceptions around FGM or cutting, like the belief that it is forced on women by men. But in fact, elderly women often do the most to perpetuate the custom. It's not the men, but we never have to forget that this is a patriarchal society. So the men are not doing this, are the women, but under a patriarchal society. In a patriarchal society, the most important thing that we have is that this son is my son and is not the son of other man. Because I have to give all my God to this son. Okay? So, yes, women do it, but under the patriarchal culture. African girls are held down and circumcised against their will, but some of them voluntarily and joyfully partake in the ritual. We have in Occident a lot of rituals, of course, not this, but we join it happy. We have our 18th party, we have in Catholic religion the confirmation. We have a lot of rituals that they are a step from the childhood to the adult. So this is another ritual in this kind of cultures. And yet, in this anthropology experience, most people who practice FGC recognize its cost. They just think the benefits are more than the costs that they have. Against this cultural relativism that all anthropologists have, there is another idea, changing the word to cutting rather than mutilation in just semantic. We keep a little bit of the heavy consciences about the procedure. Those trying to eliminate it should just call it cutting the genitals. To those they are trying to persuade, but their motivation stems from believing it is indeed mutilation. And of course, if doing something integrates a woman into her culture, she may do it joyfully. After all, she is joining the pack. But does she do rejecting it leads to ostracism? What does voluntarily even mean? If this barbaric cultural practice didn't exist, as it doesn't in the West, these are West, of course, words, which outlaws FGM, women wouldn't elect it. If there's no cultural value attached to FGM, why would any girl want to do it? Those are questions for you, and we can talk after. FGM is a reprehensible practice that is not only medically dangerous, resulting in both short and long-term health problems, but also by excising inner labia and clitoris severely reduce the possibility of sexual pleasure for women, which is, of course, its point. Why? Because the patriarchal culture, this son that is my son, because if my wife doesn't have any pleasure, will not want to be with another man. So there is no problem. This is my son. This is my house. This is my farm. This is to my son. We have a test case in the Gambian culture. We talk about Sierra Leone, we talk in other countries, but here they could develop 3 theories with a survey to the Gambian women. There is a feminist theory that predicts that abandonment of FGC will be correlated with increased rights for women, including improved education for women, protection from domestic violence, property rights, and other factors related to the improvement of women's rights more broadly. The modernization theory posits that FGC abandonment is correlated with societal modernization, including improved education in society, increased wealth, increased access to modern media, and other indicators linked with modernization. And the convention theory contends that practice like FGC will only be abandoned by communities or subgroups rather than by individuals or households because of the challenge in being the first to abandon traditional practice and face ostracism. With these theories, they made the survey and they asked to these women about all the items. So the results that we obtain is: would you like your daughter to be circumcised? Under these theories, okay, yes, 74%. Do you think the practice should continue? Yes, 72%. Are you circumcised? Yes, 80%. So, questions to be considered. Should FGM or cutting be considered a public health issue? Are biomedical ethics even applicable when the providers are not trained medical personnel? How does one respect cultural values while invoking human values? Do human values supersede cultural practice? What is the value of cultural relativism in promoting ethical behaviors? Can education bring enlightenment? This is all. And now is questions now or at the end? Discussion now. Okay, so.
We have a microphone, so if you have a question, say where you're from and what your field is, and then go ahead. And we're really encouraging participation, even if it's comments about a patient that you had. Okay, we'll have time later too.
Okay, so maybe we can do some discussion after with all the points if you don't have questions now. Now is Dr. Juan Fernando that is going to talk about the medical legal perspective, please.